Hello everyone. Today is the third part of first session, and we already discussed about NFHS 4 and NFHS 5 data on exclusive breastfeeding and also on complementary feeding, and we also discussed about growth charts. So today I'm going to talk about framework that we had created at one of the NGO that I was working at, and this was the framework for maternal infant young child feeding practices. We had to actually create a protocol, and it took us almost, I would say, 6 to 7 years to come up with this protocol from our learning in the field. So this is what I'm going to discuss today, to understand what we did and what helped actually. And this is the same NGO which showed a good amount of reduction of not only wasting and underweight but also stunting. So before we again go deep into each factor, just wanted to give you a broad guideline, that what we did. So first thing was basically we focused a lot on breastfeeding. It took us almost, I would say, 6-7 years to understand what was missing in the breastfeeding aspect, because initially in first 4-5 years I was not getting results. I mean, our children were not gaining as good a weight as they were expected to. And again, experience from US is, we were very strict on growth monitoring. So if children didn't grow well, we had to immediately take an action, and here I was trying to teach them breastfeeding holds and all, which I had learned by reading. Again, this training was not done in our medical curriculum, not even at MD level in US and pediatrics. So obviously, looking at all these guidelines, I was teaching them traditional holds, cradle hold, and I would say baspilado, not focusing so much on intricacies of technicalities, and when children were not gaining weight, I was like thinking what to do. I mean, in the US, immediately mothers start formulas, but here I was working in slums, so I didn't want to think of even starting anything because that was out of question. And for me, giving exclusive breastfeeding was very, very important. And somehow we've kind of figured out when we continue seeing such cases, most of the cases were not gaining weight actually, and then one of the baby, in fact, kind of, I would say, taught us, and we came up with this 45 counseling points, because of strict monitoring of our data, and cross cradle actually worked really well. So what we did is basically we taught mothers this cross cradle hold, starting from, I would say, 2013 or so. We started doing cross cradle hold, and our goal was just to train these pregnant mothers who came in, because when these mothers actually were not trained on proper breastfeeding technique, when they would go for deliveries any outside, a lot of those doctors would start formulas, or they would say doodh nahi aa raha hai, and they would start all this cow milk or formulas. So we wanted to kind of empower our pregnant mothers, and that's when we actually saw great results even when they delivered, even if they were told not to give breast milk because babies were either born by cesarean or some of the other issue, they did not listen to doctors. They give it. So I think this is a very important point that I would like to discuss, is to teach your pregnant mothers this 45 points of counseling with cross cradle hold, and you'll definitely see timely early initiation of breastfeeding. You'll see amazing weight gain. They don't lose so much weight. That's what I saw, that even in US, when I was using this whole, every time I went in urgent care when mothers came, we would teach them cross cradle hold, at day 2 or day 3 post delivery, and I was seeing just amazing results of 50-60 grams a day. And no wonder, WHO table shows 200-gram weight gain in first week, and that's what I saw actually, which generally we don't see it in India, unfortunately. Maybe because of the mothers are not guided, or probably I don't want to blame too many things, but I saw similar results in India in our program when we started teaching cross cradle hold. So that's why I was insisting on this kind of 45 points of counseling. And what we did is basically here, this is one of the project in Banaskantha, where all these pregnant mothers were brought in PHCs, and they were taught, using our health spoken tutorial, which I'll speak in the next, session. And, they were taught this whole when they were pregnant. Okay, not only when they were pregnant, they were asked to demonstrate, okay, with breast model and the doll, and then immediately as soon as they delivered, PHC medical officers and A&M and Asha would train them on cross cradle hold and basically empower her, right? So that's what the important aspect, and that's what we did in our program also. We brought all these pregnant mothers in. We not only, of course, talk about breastfeeding techniques, but we also spoke about her nutrition, because her nutrition was very important, and we tried to kind of get all the mothers from first trimester onward, because obviously what I noticed that there was a huge number of low birth weight babies being born in urban slums. So I wanted to improve their birth weight, so we brought them in early. We would have one session per month or so, even sometime once every 2 weeks, depending upon which trimester they were in, and focused a lot on nutrition, focused on red flags, focused on understanding of minor aches and pains in pregnancy. We did not do a lot of this obstetrician kind of care, because we didn't have a gynecologist in our program. So it was more of a kind of other things which were not done in the hospital that we kind of took care of. So more of like a nutrition counseling, breastfeeding counseling, talking about issues, just general issues, teaching them some exercises, and paramedical stuff. So that was important part of our program. Second part was basically teaching mothers, giving them support on cross cradle hold. So again, you can see this cross cradle hold is completely opposite of what traditional hold is. Here baby is being held by opposite hand. Again, I'll discuss more in detail later. And here medical officer in Banaskantha district, she's doing a home visit, and she's teaching mother actually how to hold, looking at the latch, all those important points which she was taught in one of the training. Here this is another a photograph of breastfeeding latching. Again, what we noticed that in his hold, baby could really open a big mouth, had a very good extension of neck. That extension of neck is really, really important, looking up a little bit like that. It was difficult to get that in a traditional hold, and the way mother was holding the breast was completely different. It was U shape rather than a C shape, which we always see in the program. And then after kind of trying this hold on, I would say, hundreds of babies, we again and looking at the data, that what helped, what did not help, our advice I'm talking about, we eventually came up with 45 points. Okay, now this 45 points included everything starting from mother's preparation, then the way she sits, the way she holds the baby, the way she brings the baby to the breast, baby's position, baby's latch, mouth latch, and other counseling points. So it kind of encompasses the whole technicality of breastfeeding. We've always told that breastfeeding is important, but exactly what to do now, if suppose, for example, if I have nobody to help me, okay, nobody to teach me, then how as a mother I would learn this skill on my own. I would call it do it yourself, and then basically practice breastfeeding on your baby. So that was the reason to come up with this kind of concise document. Of course, this is really important for healthcare workers, doctors, and medical officers and nurses to learn this. But in case if mothers don't have any physical support, just by looking at it and understanding, she can definitely try it. And I have a lot of mothers who call us on a Poshan helpline, and we just pass them this tutorial which we have created on 45 points, and they do wonderful. We have so many mothers telling us that, just by looking at the skill videos, I understood the problem, and the problem is fixed within 24 to 48 hours. So this is to just kind of standardize the process, so that it becomes easy for capacity building. So here we created this kind of brochures and the wall hangings in different languages, basically all different languages. So if any NGOs working in different areas of India, if they would want to take it up, we have it in all the different languages. Okay, this is created Sitara and spoken tutorial basically. Then what we did when mothers came to our program, it was very important for healthcare worker to assess breastfeeding. Now this is breastfeeding assessment tool that of course it was created by WHO, but we kind of modified it because our techniques were different. We were promoting cross cradle hold, so I wanted to add a lot of those points, and also wanted to kind of add some of this counseling points which were not given in WHO assessment tool. So we kind of modified that assessment tool, and this is what basically we came up with. Just important points, not too much which was not helping mothers to breastfeed or not helping babies to gain weight. So we removed some of those points, but put in kind of more about points which were very, very relevant. Points which were relevant, for example, more on latching, more on understanding if mother understood whether she knew early hunger cues, or she knew that baby need to be fed a few times at night. All those points that we put it in there. And what healthcare workers were supposed to do in my program is every time baby came with the mother, I'm talking about first 2 to 3 weeks when mother is still learning breastfeeding, they had to basically check. Okay, so on left side you have all the favorable behaviors, and on right side you have unfavorable behaviors, so unfavorable signs, symptoms, or whatever you can say. Okay, so if suppose baby came with the mother, we would first weigh the baby. I mean, that was very important. But then we would tell mother, you breastfeed and I'm going to examine. Okay, so healthcare workers would examine the mother and the baby and the way they breastfed. By looking at it and by filling out these forms, we could actually figure out the problem, where the problem lied, because then we immediately knew that, okay, this is a problem that mother don't know hunger cues. Then we would discuss more about that hunger cue, or a mother did not know how to bring the baby to the breast. So we discussed that point. But this assessment was very important, when they came to our program. So I definitely recommend to all my friends over here to kind of, I will put a PDF for this form. We have again, recreated, added few more points from learning in past couple of years, and then just kind of, even if you're a mother and if you want to just assess your breastfeeding, just fill this form at home and then figure out where the issue is. It's all basically like a problem oriented solutions, that you need to know this, then the breastfeeding will be very successful. Okay. As I of course said, why this effective breastfeeding? Again, I keep talking about not just timely early initiation or exclusive breastfeeding. I keep talking about effective breastfeeding because I wanted to see that if mother knew breastfeeding, then why would she start top feed? Or if mother knew proper breastfeeding, then why would she so much of SAM, so much of stunting, underweight, under 6 months of age, right? Because babies are only getting mother's milk. So like obviously, once we started learning these new techniques, all these questions came to our mind, that why every mother needs help. Every mother needs help, whether it is a mother in a tribal area, slum area, Western world. In fact, Western world mothers need much more help, and we figured out, there was a study which was done in UC Davis, and what they found is basically 92% of the new mothers reported at least one breastfeeding concern. Okay, and this is on day 3. Now here are the institute where they have lactation consultant. Okay, they have trained nurses, they have lactation consultant, they can go to in the hospital, but still all these mothers had all these issues. And by and large, in US also they tend to use traditional hold, because that's been there for probably generation, so God knows how many generation, but if mother had all these issues, so on day 3, what issues were there? 52% mothers, they felt that they were not feeling well, and the cohort was 532 first time mothers, so that's a huge cohort. Okay, 52% mothers, they were not feeling well at breast. 40 to 44% breastfeeding percent of mothers had breastfeeding pain, and 40% mothers had perceived lack of sufficient milk, so they felt that I was not getting milk. Okay, now obviously when in a developed world, when you have a big institute like UC Davis Hospital who has trained lactation consultant, if those mothers were showing all the symptoms, and most of them left actually breastfeeding, so then there has to be issue, right? And I did not figure out this issue for first 5-6 years when I was working, in this NGO. But yes, we did figure that it was the effectiveness of the breastfeeding which was the hindrance to mothers continuing breast milk, or to improve, wasting, stunting, and all those anthropometric measures. Okay, so that was important. Now growth monitoring. So growth monitoring was very important part of our program. Okay, so here is in this NGO, what we did is basically we got all these small young babies to our program, and then basically we worked a lot on monitoring of these babies, growth monitoring. And so here, we had social workers who would basically take height and weight or length of these babies. Then we had, and this is all lactating mothers, so we had a program for lactating mothers also, where we would teach mothers her nutrition, how to take care of herself, and then talk about breastfeeding and complementary feeding and all that, So this clinic was not just for young children, it was also for pregnant mothers and lactating mothers. So all these lactating mothers were bringing the children, depending upon the weight gain, we would decide whether this baby would be seen in 2 days, 7 days, 2 weeks, 1 month, but we had a set protocol, So this mothers, when they would weigh their babies, then they would come to like a doctor or nurse, and they would be basically the data would be taken from them, of course the history would be there. We would do breastfeeding assessment. Imagine we were working in a very small room, so we did not have any privacy, again very contradictory to the place where I had come from, where we had one huge room for one mother. There was so much of privacy, and unbelievable. And here, when I would tell mothers, okay, show me breastfeeding, and so many times there were fathers there, there were some other people there, and it was so difficult, we had lack of space. So this privacy is also kind of important, in our setting, that if anybody is coming to any clinic, and if you want to assess breastfeeding, it's important to have some space for mothers. But we did not have it, as you can see it from our picture. And then what would happen, initially we did not have any software, so we would do everything by hand. We would plot all babies' growth chart, we would teach mothers what food to eat for themselves, and if babies were more than 6 months old, we would tell them what to eat. But this was our clinic of monitoring visits, and our basically the follow-up of these babies completely depend on the weight gain. Okay, so babies are not gaining weight, we were seeing them very frequently. If babies were gaining weight, we would see them once a month. Okay, so that 101 counseling was very, very important in our program. Okay, now here this is in that same clinic, once a mother brought that baby, we would basically check the weight. That weighing scale was also very important. Eventually we ended up buying Seca, because Seca was Seca is a German product, weighing scale. Very expensive. So obviously initially when I came, it was, they had a Salter weighing scale. So on a Salter, that every time we put that baby in a Salter weighing scale, which I had not seen in the US at all, and I kept thinking that baby was, that weight was going here, here, here. Every time baby moved, it would, and I was used to seeing, 1 gram incremental weight gain on sophisticated digital machines, weighing scale. And I said, this would not work for me. I mean, I had to see even 15 gram weight gain. And we could not obviously figure out on a Salter weighing scale whether 15 gram weight gain occurred in 1 day or 2 days or whatever, So then eventually we moved to, digital weighing scale, but my goal was to get Seca products. So once we got some more funding, we got some better weighing scales, okay? And this one was basically checking the length. So length checking was very, very important. And what I see, we are very strict on length, how babies' length are checked in US, okay, because that's again our bread and butter. But what I was seeing in our program, that a lot of these healthcare workers, it was very difficult to train them on length check, because babies are very wiggly, they cry, they need a lot of this holding of the head, holding of the knee. A lot of time babies would flex their knees, they would bend their knees. So it was important for us to do that. So that's why, like, what I did, and a lot of time what used to happen, there used to be a lot of length would be wrong. So when I would plot, I'd say, no, this can't be right length, because last week it was this length, and this time you cannot have increment of 3 centimeter in 1 week, So then I would, we created a protocol that this length would be checked by 2 different individuals. So then what we would do is basically, we had 2 social workers. So one person would basically check the length, and then the other person would, plot it, and then we would have another person doing it, again checking the length properly again, second time, whether there'll be role reversal, and we found that there was a lot of discrepancies, and then again we would have third person doing it. So I think finally they learned how to check length. So it takes time, so make sure in your program, when you're doing maternal child health program, this length check is very, very important. You train your team, train your staff how to check length, okay? Because if your length is, say, changed by 2 or 3 centimeter, your child will go from normal to maybe ma'am or even Sam or even stunting, So please, that's really, really important, especially in first few weeks of age, Another thing was basically, so of course now I spoke about breastfeeding. Now obviously with that kind of level of training of breastfeeding counseling to mothers, a lot of our babies were becoming very tall, very big. Some of them were like, as I showed you in the picture, some of them were like becoming 10 kgs by 6 months of age, right? But when those babies, okay, when they are big, then they have good appetite. Okay, when they have good appetite, they will try everything. Whatever you give them, they will try it. Okay, but when you did not have a good growth in first 6 months of age, those babies were thin, those babies were cranky, those babies are not happy, cranky, not eating well, poor uptake of all different kind of foods. So I strongly believe that if you want to have a good complementary feeding stage, you start your foundation strong. Okay, what is the foundation strong means? That you make sure that the baby is breastfed well, get that baby to good, 9, 10 kgs, 8, 9, whatever 10 kgs is good. I mean, we have shown that results, in so many babies. We can target that because we want our children to be tall. And these are breastfed babies. So I'm not worried at all about the blood pressure or diabetes. I'm not worried at all. I don't know why people keep thinking whenever I put some healthy babies photographs who are exclusively breastfed that, oh, this baby is overfed, this baby is obese. You guys are not worried when the babies are less than third percentile. 36% children are less than third percentile in India. But you're worried about children who are going more than 97 percentile on weight, that to exclusively breastfed, So I want to make sure that, you guys understand that if baby is breastfeeding beautifully and if they are gaining weight, there are multiple papers out there that the BMI is much better. These babies who are growing faster on breast milk, the BMI is lower at 1 year of age compared to babies who are formula fed. Okay, so I don't want formula fed babies or those other babies, cow milk babies to grow fast, because those are the babies who is going to develop diabetes and blood pressure. But yes, I want those breastfed babies to have amazing amount of milk transfer so they grow tall, because I showed you in so many. I'll be showing more on when I talk about growth charts. I'll show you many more examples of how these babies grew leaps and bounds just on breast milk. So it's important that just focus on your first 6 months a lot. Then your 6 months ke baad ka complementary feeding becomes much easier. Okay, so here is your, so this is, Annaprasam from one of the districts, Sabarkata district. And, we had done that project in late 2018, 2019. And you can see these babies were just so big, So it was a joy for, government people to even feed them, the complementary feeding, because they would immediately take it, and they were just, so they would finish the whole thing, big appetite. Okay, and even same in the same function, basically you can see all these babies are just looking so good, especially the middle one. So I think it's important, before we talk about complementary feeding, it's important that our children grow well. Okay. Now, this complementary feeding also we learned a lot. Okay, believe me that many times, actually most of the time, I would say, when the children were growing well on breastfeeding, but at 6 months, what would happen? Their growth would stagnate. Okay. They would just not grow. I mean, I would keep asking my nutritionist, I said, why these children are not growing? What's happening? So we figured out the reason children were not growing, because we were again just talking about chawal do, khichdi do, usme sare sabji dalo, ye karo, wo karo. It was everything the same thing that what we were taught, and it was not helping in our program. Children were not gaining weight. And when the stagnation started in the weight, the length also started stagnating. So I was thinking, my God, we worked so hard on breastfeeding. Children are like at 97 percentile, 85 percentile for length. And now children are not growing for weight. Obviously, length is not going to grow, right? So we had to really come up with something, solution for it, And what I realized, and I'm just fortunate, is basically I got exposure, or I would say training of Dr. Michael Golden. Okay, so here in 2011 we had one consensus statement from Indian Academy of Pediatrics on management of SAM. We were creating guideline for pediatricians, and we wanted to publish in Indian Pediatrics, and that's when we found that a lot of these children were basically and he discussed about type 2 nutrients, type 1 nutrients, how the SAM children are lacking in type 2 nutrients. And when I was attending those sessions, I realized that okay, so child had lack of this type 2 nutrients and that's why they become SAM. And then when you're giving those type 2 nutrients more in the form of special food which are recommended by WHO for SAM children, it just kind of stuck to me that why not, if we increase those type 2 nutrients in the diet of this 6 months old children and above in complementary foods, then you would not have those children going into type 2 nutrient deficiency, right? And again, I will discuss about this type 1, type 2 nutrient in my other lecture. But that's when, like, it just kind of, it rung the bell, or I would say, it struck the light that maybe let's talk about this type 2 nutrient when we talk about foods. And obviously he discussed, Professor Michael Golden also discussed about 40 nutrients which are required in the diet. And a lot of these programs, they keep talking about iron, calcium, all that, but none of the programs were discussing so much about the type 2 nutrient. And that's when we came up with these recipes. Okay, so these recipes are basically made from locally available beans and seeds and nuts and legumes and leaves, like for example drumstick leaves or curry patta leaves or any of those leaves. And obviously what happens is, like when mothers start food at 6 months, they are so the diet was so monotonous. They would just give khichdi, rice dal, khichdi, roti dipped in milk, a little bit of vegetable here and there. That was absolutely monotonous. No wonder our children were not gaining weight, because we were recommending the same thing. खिचड़ी दो, उसमें सारे ये सब वेजिटेबल्स डालो, विटामिन ए रिच फूड डालो, मतलब वो सब, मतलब nothing. It was, we were not focusing on protein as much, and other type 2 nutrients like your magnesium, your potassium, your chloride, so many other things we were not focusing at all. Your sulfur, so zinc, and because we had no knowledge about what food to give which will give all this nutrition, and the food that children were eating was so starch based. It was very much starch based, carbohydrate based, and we realized, and I really thank Professor Michael Golden for giving me that opportunity to understand the importance of type 2 nutrients. Okay, so we told mothers, and I will discuss about this type 2 nutrient dense food in my complementary feeding. Okay, and then of course when we understood about this type 2 nutrients, and of course important type 1 nutrients also, we started creating cooking demos. Okay, so what we would do, we would ask all these mothers to, and this is complementary feeding is not just about the dietary diversity, but also about the amount, how many times baby should be eating, depending upon the age, how to make those foods. So everything was very, very important. So again, it's one thing to tell mothers do this, do that, another thing, and a lot of time we were telling that in the beginning, but mothers will say, "Bachcha khata nahi hai, bachcha leta hi nahi hai." Then we said, okay, let's start, our cooking demos. So we would bring all these mothers in the clinic. Okay, this is a picture from our other NGO that I've been working since 2013. I've continued to work here. This is a rural-based NGO, Srimati Malti Dhanukar Trust. And here, here is our team. We have team of about 12 people. So, this here is a doctor, this is a nutritionist, she's a healthcare workers, these are social workers. Then we have 3-4 nurses. So here, we have a team of all these doctors, nurses, nutritionists, social workers. They all come under one roof and help these children to improve their anthropometric measurements, right? That was my impact, is to improve weight, height, and all that. So here we would teach mothers exactly how to make, from a locally available food which was not very expensive, because we want to make sure that these children, mothers can afford the food that we are recommending. We can't recommend something which is very expensive and expect them to buy those things. We cannot say that, okay, buy walnut or buy almond or buy this exotic food. We have to bring all this, whatever is available locally. So then what we would do is we would kind of show them all this ingredient, and we would talk about nutrient content of each and every food, and then we would feed the child right in front of the mother. Okay, so that responsive feeding was very, very important. Okay, because a lot of time mothers didn't know how to feed. They would kind of make the child lie down and feed, or they would force feed the child, and all that was very, very important part of training of this mothers. Okay, so here we created from that from this ingredient we created this ticky, which we were giving to a little bit older child. So this is about, I think, about 8 to 9 months old child, and he's like enjoying that ticky, which has egg, which has so many different green leafy vegetables, and ragi. It has some ragi, and then this is dal. So we also wanted to show them that dal should be thick, it should be nutrient dense. Over here, I saw all these mothers were giving watery dal, literally watery. They feel like nahi bacche ko choke hoga. So through cooking demo, we would teach them how to make it and how to feed them. Okay. Junk food is the big problem all over the world. Okay, and that's true even in urban slum, rural areas, tribal areas. You go anywhere, there's so much of junk food available. And in our program, what we found, that a lot of these babies were given biscuit by by 4 months of age, Mari biscuit, and all these biscuits they were getting, and I was very much against it. So junk food awareness was very integral part of our program. Okay, home visit was another integral part of our program, where we would our social workers, nurses, nutritionists would go to mother's home and then basically see the environment around it, because an environment is very important, right? We may tell them breastfeed karo, complementary feeding karo, but ghar pe if it's very, very dirty, if it's not clean, then babies would definitely get diarrhea and all that, right? So those are very, very important aspect of prevention of undernutrition. So here there is a home visit going on, and we are seeing how mother is burping the baby. This is one point of our 45 points. So here she's making the baby sit on her lap. Okay, but we wanted to see how she does it in the home environment. And then another thing what we would see is with the and obviously, whenever we would do home visit, we would always have this breastfeeding doll and the baby doll, breastfeeding breast model, and we would see whether she has prepared those powders or not, whether she's kind of kept it in a clean container, whether she has, whether there is any other issues going on in the house, how clean was the kitchen, whether how clean was it water, where was she storing it. So there was some 30-40 things that we were looking at, and we were analyzing that how these mothers were doing at home. So again, that very rich data. Now, last but not the least, of course, I wouldn't call it last, one more point which is there I'll discuss, which is very important. But again, coming from US, I was used to electronic medical record. Okay, we were using it for a long time, and first 4-5 years, of course, when I came to India, I had to put everything on the paper. Documentation, growth charts. We had files which similarly how we would have it in US, we would have a file for each child, and we would not give that file to mother, because I was afraid that if I would give that file to mother, she would lose it. So we would keep it in a clinic. At every visit we had so many questions, and we would fill out religiously, and that's how we have learned growth monitoring. That's how we have learned what worked, what did not work. But after 4-5 years, we decided that we need to get software. Okay, because unless you have electronic data monitoring, very, very difficult to analyze, to keep taking care of those files. Sometimes we would lose some of those files, or sometimes there would be the paper was torn, child was playing with that file, so we had to basically switch to electronic data monitoring. So we had this very sophisticated software, amazing software, and I'm so proud of that NGO FMCH, and I really appreciate Dottie Wagle, who is the CEO of that FMCH. She's doing just wonderful work. She got everything streamlined. So not only the technical aspect of breastfeeding, complementary feeding is important, but streamlining the process is also very important. Putting protocols in place, getting data collection, data monitoring, what works, what doesn't work, monitoring the program, evaluation of overall program. That's what she brought in. That was her forte. Coming from US, I mean, that was completely her forte. So she got everything streamlined, and I really appreciate. So we got this amazing software. And that told us it would automatically kind of graph the children on WHO growth chart. So as soon as and it was all cloud based, so as soon as healthcare worker put in weight and height, it would show up on our iPad or our tablet. Immediately it would show up on my laptop, and I could show mother, look, whatever we told you, you did it, and see, look at the result. She would be so happy to look at those growth charts. So if you want to really kind of do behavior change in mother, plot your growth chart. Because mother looks at a growth chart. If she finds out that baby has not gained weight from that growth chart, she will do anything. Whatever you tell her, she will do it. But mother needs to know how the child is growing. Okay, so don't just go by saying that itna gram badna chahiye, utna gram badna chahiye. Yeah, of course you tell her ki I'm expecting this much weight gain, but then show her, see, if baby gained 40 grams, this is where child is coming now. Okay, so she understands, because there's so much of myth in the practice out there, not only in government sector but even in private pediatricians, that they are saying 500 gram mahine ka badna chahiye. That's completely wrong, because if you plot that graph and show after 1 month the child has gained 500 gram, mother will say, nahi, ye to niche ka hai bacha. Mother will say, so I recommend that please plot your graph. You tell her what is the expected weight gain, and if it's not gaining weight after showing the proper technique, then you figure out the problem. There is an issue. If there's if a functional issue is taken care of, then you figure out the organic cause. But this is organic cause means we have to find out any medical condition why babies are not gaining weight. Okay, but if we have very poor target weight, then those babies are bound to get underweight in just 2 or 3 months, matter of 3 months. Even if baby is born 3.3 kg, 3 kg, those people become underweight if you have target weight, just 500 grams per month. Okay, so again, my experience from US that I brought to India was developmental classes, because over there we have this Mom and Me class, okay, where not only kind of young children would go to Mom and Me class, but even pregnant mothers would go to Lama's class and so many other different classes where she would stimulate that baby, how we have Garbha Sanskar, right? They also have their different ways of stimulating those babies in US, and I feel that why we are not using that Garbha Sanskar in our NGOs and in our government setup. So important, meditation, talk about good things, read good books, say some slokas if you're Hindu, say some prayers of any religion. But I feel that it's important because it passes on those important sanskars in children. And I do believe in kind of talking to babies when they are in the womb. So here is one of our setup. It's again the same program. This was a temple actually. We did not have such big place. As you saw, our clinic was so small, so we did not have this setup. So we asked one of the temple in our area if we could use that area to to show this developmental aspect to mothers, how to play with them, how to massage them, how to stimulate them, how to talk to them, just everything, how to make some toys, so this all. And we would bring children of same age group. Okay, so that for example, this is mainly about say around 3 months or maybe 4 months old babies. Then from 6 months to 9 months we would have a different program for developmental pediatrics, we call it. And then for older children we have a different program, because each child is at a different developmental stage. So we would have different kind of praise or different advice for different age group. So here this healthcare worker is teaching how to massage the babies. Okay, so again these are for people who are running different programs and also for government. What are the point of contact for MIYC and counseling? So there are so many times that especially and this I have a lot of pediatricians also attending this training, so I want to show that you have ANC time. You can talk about MIYCN, okay, ANC OPDs. Then you have during a prep room, the early stage of labor, you tell mothers that, okay, or even before she goes into labor, during NC time, you talk about breast crawl, talk about breast crawl or skin to skin during cesarean, talk about labor room, in labor room, talk about that, okay, now baby's going to be born, and we're going to put the baby on your tummy so that we can start early initiation. So this are all important contact point, where not only pediatrician but ASHA, A&M, medical officers, everybody can basically focus on those MIYC and contact point. Okay, then you have PNC ward, absolutely important time period when mother is in the PNC, post delivery, she is in PHC or in hospital for 2 days. In some areas you have only for 1 day, that's fine, 1 day 24 hours is enough. Keep teaching them cross-cradle hold and 45 points. Anytime mother comes for immunization, either at PHC level or wherever, look at breastfeeding, do breastfeeding assessment, find out if there is an issue, correct it. Okay, unless you correct it, mothers will continue doing wrong thing and you will not see good weight gain. Okay, and then any pediatric OPD, if mother came to a pediatric OPD or any OPD, for medical officers or any OPD, if child came for a runny nose, again ask about nutrition. Why do we only focus on runny nose and cough? Why are we only focusing on just pneumonia, diarrhea? Ask about why did child get diarrhea? Why did pneumonia child get? Because there was a problem with breastfeeding. So talk about breastfeeding, talk about the technicality, skill, not just कि breastfeeding कराती हो कि नहीं कराती हो. That is just, are you feeding baby? Are you eating or not? I mean, yes, I would have eaten just one biscuit and I say, yeah, I'm eating. No, the quality is important. Okay, if you're breastfeeding, show me how you're doing breastfeeding, show me. Because if you don't show her proper skill, you may correct your pneumonia, you may correct your diarrhea, but she will go back in the community, she will come back in 2 weeks with the same issue. Okay, because you have not tackled the root cause. The root cause is poor nutrition causing child to have pneumonia, diarrhea, any illnesses, even runny nose and cough. Okay, so while we are discussing about vaccines and all that, please do not forget your basic fundamental of nutrition. And that's under 6 months is breastfeeding skills, and 6 months onward is complementary feeding and continuation of breastfeeding. Okay, so here I'm going to end my session. I just talked about the framework that we worked under, and if we can replicate this framework in our government system, other NGOs, other organizations, you will definitely see results. Why not, right? Because here we're really actually looking at the problem and solving the problem at the root cause. So I hope you enjoyed this session, and I'll see you again for the next session. Thank you.